I'm Joan, and I'm going to show you my favorite way to make mitered corners on borders such as this.
Here's what you need. This method works for either a block or a whole quilt top. First, make sure your block or your top is square. Measure in both directions. This is 9 inches in both directions. Then decide how wide you want your borders to be. I'm using 2 of the white stripes. I need an extra one to make it work so that I cut on the next dark blue stripe. Measure the width of the strip, 2 1/4 in this case. To get the length, add the measurement of the side, double the width of the strip, and add a couple more inches just for safety. This is 15.5 inches, and it will give me plenty of extra room at both ends. You can cut with a rotary cutter or shears. Shears make it easy to get an accurate cut along the stripe. Fold the strip in half, mark the center point, and then mark the same distance as the length of the side, so 4.5 inches from each side of center to get a 9-inch marking on each strip. I've also marked the center of each side of the block. Now I want to put strips on opposite sides of the block. Make sure that the stripe you want is against the edge of the block. So I've got the dark side there. On the other side, I'm also going to match up a dark stripe along the edge. Sew the strips on from one side of the block to the other. No need to backstitch on this seam. Press the seams out towards the borders. Now we'll put the other 2 borders on, matching the blue against the block. Pin both sides. We're going to sew from seam to seam, and just from seam to seam. Don't go past those. Backstitch at the beginning and end of the seam. Turn it over to check, and then sew the other side the same way. You can mark those beginning and end points if you need to. There's a little bump right where the other seam is underneath. Again, press the seams out towards the borders. Finally, we're ready to make those beautiful mitered corners. Get everything laid out straight and even. Take the top border, fold it back under itself to make an angle. Work with it to get everything neat, even. Get it looking pretty good. Check it with the square ruler that has a diagonal line on it to make sure everything is nice and square. The fold of the fabric should go right along the diagonal line of the ruler. Press it to set the crease. Make sure everything's nice Gently lift that folded edge back and put just a tiny bead of washable school glue along that edge and set it back down in place. Make sure everything's lined up and then double check it with the ruler again to make sure nothing has moved out of place. Use the dry iron to dry the glue and set the crease really well. The next thing will be to sew along that creased line. Now, that crease is right there. If it's hard to see, mark it. Just use your ruler, mark it with a pen or a marker to make it easier to see when you're sewing from one end to the other. You're going to be sewing from the point to the edge or the edge to the point. Now let's do another one and get it ready. Get everything straight and flat, fold the corner under, fiddle with it, make sure it looks good. Check it with the ruler. Press the crease. Fold it back, a little bead of glue. Double check it with that ruler. Press it with the dry iron. Mark your stitching line in the crease. Stitch along the fold. You can back stitch at both ends this time, just for some security. Open it out and check your seam. Isn't that beautiful? Stitch the next corner, back stitch at both ends. Look at this, 2 beautifully mitered corners. You can do this. You can have beautiful mitered corners on your quilts too. Pull the ends of the fabric apart to pop the glue line so you can press your seam open if you would like. Then trim the extra fabric off. Now you can either press it open or to one side, whichever you prefer. And there you have it, a perfect mitered corner.